on.
I'm
So
screaming
now that
every week.
we're in the Christmas spirit, and this is gonna be our last segment for the day. I was doing a little bit of thinking, and I wanted to know what your top five wrestling video games of all time are. So I'm gonna start with my dog Mo, and then we're gonna
I
come
feel
to
like we
me.
should go shoot for a shoot. I feel like we're gonna end up saying the same games.
Okay,
At
so
least 2 or 3 have to be the same. So you go first.
all right, so first things, I'm going to start with my number 5. My number 5 is SmackDown versus Raw 2004. Honestly, so the reason why is because I feel like SmackDown versus Raw 2004
They had it
was
2004?
they had it was the first SmackDown versus Raw.
I thought it came out in 2005 for some reason. And then it was
Nah,
2006. Then it was 7, 8.
it may have been
I
if it
never
was
seen a 2005 written out on the cover.
actually, it may have dropped in 2005, but I remember it was like teased in late 2004. But it was just an exciting time. I remember it clearly because that was like the first game where Raw Superstars and SmackDown Superstars were on the same game, because they used to have the SmackDown games for PlayStation and the um Jesus and the Raw games for Xbox. So that was like the first time in a couple years that we had like Triple H on a PlayStation or like Randy Orton on a PlayStation. So I like SmackDown versus Raw 2004 as my number 5. My number 4, SmackDown versus Raw 2006, because that was like the first like momentum bar, and like we started to see dramatic improvements in the gameplay. Then we get to WWE 13. First of all, the fact that this was CM Punk's first major cover on a WWE video game, and the interview between Stone Cold and CM Punk is a classic. That alone puts it in a top 5. And it was the first WWE video game, I think, in about 10 years where they were integrating characters and elements of the Attitude Era into the game, since video games for WWE were coming out on, like through THQ and through like PlayStation and Xbox and stuff like that. I think this is like one of the first ones where we saw like a heavy Attitude Era influence after the SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain, Shut Your Mouth, all that. Number 2 for me was SmackDown versus Raw 2008. That was the first time that we started to see, number 1, ECW was featured in that game. So it was SmackDown versus Raw featuring ECW. And then they brought in the Extreme Rules matches and all the weapons, and it was so much fun. And number 1, SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain. Greatest wrestling video game of all time. I think that was the first time that we started seeing realistic crowds. Just the gameplay was so seamless and just so fun. Like you could just hop on and anybody could like get invested and get involved. And it was just fun. Like SmackDown Here Comes the Pain was just so much fun. I used to crank my finishers on unlimited, and I would just come out the gate smoking cats. First move,
Wild.
finisher. Out the gate, Stone Cold Stunner. Kidding me? It's over now. We're ending this now. But that's my top 5. And you can give your 5. It doesn't even have to be in order. That was
Mine's definitely won't be because I don't ever speak in order. But I'm gonna stem off of what you said with Here Comes the Pain, because like that I believe was my first wrestling video game for me personally. So it has to be on my list because it was my first. Because like for the longest, my mom refused to buy me wrestling games because like, you're a girl, I shouldn't be playing that stuff. But I used to see that there was girls in there. I'm like, I want to be a girl. I want to jump off of things. I saw you were able to throw people off of properties. Did they have like Times Square or some shit like that? You're able to.
Yeah, WWE Times Square. They had like the 7W Times Square. You could throw them off.
You're just gonna push people off of anything, and they call it a KO. It's like, no, I just watched a fatality. What do you mean? Like, wasn't that also the same game where you were able to just like hit people with cars, or you know what I mean? You was able to like take the open up the door and hit them in the head with the door, slam them on top of the door. I think there was like a finisher where you're able to like, actually get inside of the car and actually run them over. It was so reckless in all the right ways. But what I loved about it was that that was still the era where they allowed guys and girls to wrestle each other, because the annoying thing as me being a female wrestling fan is that down the line they revoked that from me, from where I couldn't fight the guys, which that was my most favorite thing for me, my girl best friends to do. Like, what? I love playing as like Trish Stratus and go beat like, I don't know, Kurt Angle's ass or whatever, just because I can.
Right.
You know, that shit was lit. I loved it. So yeah, that's on my list. Another one that people constantly always forget or never played before, but I'm gonna put on my list because it's also one of my first few wrestling video games that I had a huge attachment with. Day of Reckoning 2.
Wow. On the GameCube?
Yes. I was a GameCube girl. I love Day of Reckoning 2. First of all, that intro. That intro
was tough. That intro was so good.
Oh my god, the whole world heavyweight title. They told you the whole story mode with just the narration and the song that they put. And I used to love the effort they used to put into old WWE video game intros. I'm very big on intros. I used to sit there and actually watch it every single time and not skip it. I loved it. Yeah, and the story mode was lit. Corny but lit. It was probably the most stressful story mode I ever played in my entire life, child. Because back then they used to make you work hard to do a steel cage match. Okay,
that's a fact.
I had to smash my A button, but before the AI bots game were on steroids, and they all, for some reason, if you did a triple threat or a fatal 4-way, they for some reason like to just aim at player one and all jump you regardless.
Right.
Like back with Day of Reckoning 2 at least, you had 3 specials, yes, but like it was on a timer when you executed the special move. So you still could get like 3-4 out if you had a short finisher. Mm-hmm. So you had an FU, you could put like 5 of them in there. And, and that's what I used to do. I used to save up all 3 and then do 15 back to back. That shit was so fun to me. Most stressful story mode. I think I broke 3 controllers trying to fight Shawn Michaels versus Kane versus Christian when I created a character for the IC title. That was hard, child. It was hard, but it was like, to me, like one of the most like nostalgic games ever. Like, it's very underrated. It's super fun. There's a lot of different gameplays, and it was still a time where guys could verse girls or whatnot. So it was lit. I loved it. Next on my list, not a list because it's still out of order. I actually love SmackDown versus Raw 2007. There's always an argument between, is 08 better or is 07 better? I loved 07. Like, I think that had to have been one of the best story modes for me personally. I'm not sure all the wrestling fans played the story modes, but I thought that had to have been the best story mode and like the best roster selection for me personally. And I also love the loading screen. The loading screen was, to me, again, another like nostalgic. Like, it used to take up the whole entire screen. You used to either have like a model, but they used to like share fun facts about the wrestlers sometimes.
I remember that.
Yeah, now it's clicking, right? 07 was just like, it was just a time to be alive. And
it was tough.
Yeah. And also, like, I was always really big on creating characters, the critic calls or CAWs, wherever the heck they called it. I used to love like sitting there for hours. First thing I used to do as a kid was like go straight to create a character mode and spend at least 2 hours like really hard on my character, really hard on the moveset, really hard on the entrance. And I love how with every SmackDown versus Raw, they up the antes on like how creative you could really go. Mm-hmm. God, if I knew how to like stream things properly, I would show you guys my whole collection. I had some fire-ass characters. What? I was having my own world. And no, was 07 the one you could go online with? It wasn't until 09, right? 09 or 10?
08. I think it was 08.
08 lets you go online?
I think 08 lets you go online. I'm not completely sure because like I wasn't an online person.
I know 09 definitely. And I know why, because my favorite thing about 09 was the glitches. Did you ever use the glitches?
Never.
All right, so there's a glitch that was my favorite one. If you use the military Tribute to the Troops arena, they had a glitch where, you know how back then for 08 it was a new feature where they had like the analog stick thing, and you could do different moves. Like, it would give you a direction. You either like put it up, down, left, or right. It'll give you a different like effect. They had this glitch that I found on the computer because that's what I used to do. My dorky ass just sit there and look up glitches and cheat codes and shit. If you pick them up sideways and you hit their back against the ring pole and then turn around and walk to the crowd, you will go through the crowd and be in a desert. You can look it up on YouTube. If anyone watching this round, look that up on YouTube. Just type in the Desert Glitch, SmackDown versus Raw, 2009. It worked.
I'm about to look that up after today.
And so. Nice to just do that in the middle of any online match and throw people off and just beat their asses outside. Way outside the ring. It's the closest feeling you'll ever have to having Here Comes the Pain and having matches that were outside of a ring. So, lit, had to be on my list. God, the last one is going to be so hard. Because you know what? When you explain W13, I think that it does deserve to be on a list. It most definitely does. You know, just because that was the last good WWE game. Me personally. I was never feeling any of the 2Ks. I thought the match qualities went down. The gameplays went down. The characters looked like crap afterward. It's so weird because if you go there and you watch like an old SmackDown game, like just any walkthrough, even like the early, like, I don't know, from like 2006, 2007, 2008, the characters were on point.
Mm-hmm.
Like right. I don't know what's the term for it when they get a face grab and they put it on the character, but it was way more realistic then.
I think they changed developers. That was what happened.
They THQ back then, right? Yeah. THQ, and were they the ones that went bankrupt? Someone went bankrupt.
Keep going about W13?
It's just like, that was the last game where they put in real effort, where I felt respected as a gamer.
Mm.
And like, I feel like that's what, like, even though I wasn't watching the show at that point, because I did quit watching wrestling, it was still like a thing for me where every single year I had to get the game. Like, I just had to. Just it was the thing, man. It was the closest thing that I could do to at least keep up with it without really watching it, since I wasn't feeling it since my faves were gone. And that was the last time I felt respected. Then when I saw like 2K14 come out and 2K15, I'm like, damn, they just like, at this point, they're just milking us of our money. Like before, like it was worth buying the next game because they always added something significantly different. That's significant in a good way. And it just came off like, I don't know, they were lowballing us after W13. So that has to go there. And for all the other reasons that she mentioned, what Punk got out of it, paying homage to the Attitude Era so the kiddos don't forget their roots. Because they don't understand. They don't understand.
They don't get it.
They don't get it.
They wasn't outside.
They wasn't. And it put a lot of people on into getting into the Attitude Era. So that's why I love what that game did. Because for kids that didn't know, like my nephews, they're right now they're 16, and the other one is 11 right now. I almost forgot his name, his grade, his age. But like they like wrestling too, but they didn't grow up with it, so they had to play the game. And like now they love Stone Cold, now they love The Rock, now they actually like Mick Foley. So I love what it did. It did actually like it served its purpose. So those would have to be my 5. I might have gave 6, but that has to be my 5.
That is a solid 5. I actually have one more thing to ask, but before I ask that, okay. People, let us know what your top 5 favorite video games are, and we're going to move on to our actual